You've heard it in many a love song. Because your love, your love, your love is my drug. Euphoric highs, devastating lows. And somehow, the more it hurts, the harder it is to let go. But what if the intensity you've been calling passion isn't love at all? What if it's a trauma bond? In this episode, Victoria and I break down the difference between chaotic chemistry and deep intimacy. How to tell if the passion is healthy or harmful, and signs you're choosing someone versus desperately trying to be chosen. We also share the one question you should ask yourself if you think you might be in love with someone's potential. Because the scariest part of a trauma bond is that it doesn't feel toxic when you're in it. It feels like the love you've been waiting your whole life for. So before you text them back, before you give them just one more chance, you need to hear this.
Welcome to Rich in Spirit.
Paid in full.
I'm Victoria.
And I'm Iman.
Here, we believe you don't have to choose between spiritual growth and financial success,
Ambition and alignment.
or healing and building an abundant life.
Join us each week to quantum leap with both proven, profitable systems and the spiritual insights that will light your way through life's greatest expansions.
Let's step into success that feeds your soul.
Let's get right into it. I think people know the drill. Victoria, would you like to lead us in some breath work before this very interesting and complex topic?
Yes, and I'd like to do it a little differently today since we're talking about love and romance and relationships. So if you can safely do so, take your hands and place them over your heart. Close your eyes. And just take a deep breath and imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart. So deep inhale into your heart, feeling your life force, feeling your love, your self-compassion. And then sighing it out, releasing any tension, any need to close off, any need to hide. And then once again, breathing into the heart, breathing into love, connection, appreciation. And then sighing it out, releasing any resentment, any fear. And then final deep inhale, breathing into the heart space. Not only your real heart, also your energetic heart. Holding at the top. And then shaking it out, letting it all go. And tense up your face. And let it relax.
Oh boy, here comes the yawn again.
Good. Yes, if you have an urge to yawn, nice deep yawn. Relax the jaw. Relax your shoulders down from your ears. Just coming into the present moment.
We have arrived. Thank you so much for that. I so appreciate the breathing. It's always wonderful. It's wonderful for us. So selfishly, I appreciate it.
Yes, we need it too.
We need it too. We absolutely do. So today is all about love and feelings that can seem like love. And it can be really tough to distinguish between the two, especially when you are in the moment and there are very fascinating people involved. Sometimes you might experience things that seem like love, that seem great, but they're actually an unhealthy triggering of your nervous system and a chemical reaction in your brain. And it could be something called a trauma bond, which I'm sure we'll get into definitions. We'll get into all of that. But I'd like to start with a few feelings that maybe people can recognize in themselves. And Victoria, please feel free to add to this list, but I'll start off with a few and just pay attention. Is this what your current relationship feels like? Is this what a relationship in the past has felt like? Where do you notice these types of sensations? You're thinking about them constantly. And as we go through this episode, I'm sure we'll get into more of the nuance and the distinctions between healthy love, where of course you miss somebody and you're thinking about somebody. So please take this initial list of feelings with a grain of salt. But you're thinking about someone constantly, all the time. They're always on your mind. You're obsessed with them. The chemistry is insane. And again, we'll get into distinctions, but just do you notice these things in yourself and in your relationship? You feel drawn to them in a way you can't explain. It's not like, oh, wow, we have the same values and we believe the same things and we're going in the same direction. No, there's just something you can't explain that you are drawn to this person. When they're distant, you feel anxious. When they come back, you feel amazing. And you're often willing to sacrifice your own needs or boundaries to make them happy. So you're always monitoring their feelings and adjusting yourself to them. Would you add things to that list of maybe just before we really get into details, like what are some things that people might be able to look out for in themselves and in their relationships that would be important for them to distinguish, is this love or a trauma bond?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And there are different phases of healthy love as well as a trauma bond, and we'll get more into that in the episode. Something can start with, or seem like it's starting with, love bombing, and then it can develop into something healthier. And also a relationship can feel like it's going really slow, and maybe you're not used to that, and that actually could be healthier. Someone could be putting on a total facade and you honestly have no idea. So I think a big overarching theme in this is trusting yourself, going slowly, and not being afraid to speak up. Even if you are very into the person, even if you feel good, speaking up and being like, this is moving a little bit fast. I need to evaluate what I'm feeling, what's happening, talking to people about it, talking to someone you trust. Because there's this idealized version of romance that we see in books, that we see in movies, where it's this roller coaster, emotional high. Classically in movies, there's going to be some kind of conflict and they come back together and everything's okay. And of course, there's always going to be conflict. Conflict resolution and repair is a very important part of a healthy relationship. No relationship is perfect. Whenever someone's like, oh, we never fight, I'm kind of like, what? Is someone just not speaking their needs? Is someone totally passive? Like, what's going on there? We can get into that later on. But today I wanted to distinguish between the healthy, grounded romance versus what we often mistake as he's my twin flame, or he or she went through so much trauma and that's why they act like this, and I'm making excuses for it and abandoning myself, like you said, Iman. And it's okay. We care about each other. He always comes back. She always comes back. This roller coaster idealized love. This is the other thing I want to clarify is your relationship doesn't have to be boring to be safe. There's all this stuff on the internet about how, well, if it's boring, that's actually a good thing and you feel calm and you just have to get used to that. There can absolutely be passion and excitement and all of these things throughout the relationship in a more grounded way. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's important. It's so funny that you mentioned twin flames because I have heard so many people, and if you don't know what a twin flame is, it's like your soulmate. Or Victoria, would you explain that better? What's the distinction between a twin flame and a soulmate?
Yes. So my understanding of it, and this is after reading a book called, and I'll put it in the show notes, You Only Fall in Love 3 Times. And the book talks about karmic love, soulmates, and twin flame love. And the author of this book actually says that twin flame love is the ultimate. That is like what we are going for. That is healthy. It has its downsides, but it is what we are striving for. We might not find it till later in life. Not everyone finds it in their lifetime, but I think that we can oftentimes confuse the karmic love for a twin flame love. So just to quickly go through each one, how she defines it, I can't remember her name, but again, I'll link her below. So she says that soulmate love is who we meet when we're young, like our first relationship. Like maybe we're in high school or in college. And sometimes it's safe and boring and we outgrow that person. Sometimes we end up staying with them forever. Sometimes it's not a healthy introduction to love, but that is the soulmate. It's like we come into this earth, we're learning about love. This person comes into our lives and they're kind of our foundation for relationships. Then comes the karmic love, and you can have several relationships that qualify as this karmic love. And so when she says you only fall in love 3 times, it's 3 types of love, but doesn't mean that it's just 3 people. So the karmic relationships, as you can probably guess from the name, there's a lot of lessons There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of growth and expansion. It serves a purpose, absolutely, in your development as a human, as a partner, but ultimately, it's not who you end up with ideally. I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of people end up with their karmic partner. And when you can break out of that relationship, there is typically this huge transformation of, okay, I know what I don't want. I know what I want. It sucks. It can suck, but it's an integral part of your evolution. And then the twin flame love, typically, it's someone that feels familiar. Maybe you did know them before. Maybe they were a friend. Maybe you had a little fling and it was the wrong timing. And then you meet them later on in life when it aligns. And it's like, I know you. I know you from somewhere. Maybe it's a past life. There's a familiarity. There's a comfort. There's an ability to fully be yourself. And there can be a phase of avoidance and anxious attachment where it's like, I don't know what is happening here. This is a lot. This is really intense. Am I ready for this? And then it evolves into, okay, this is my life partner. This is the person who I feel safe with that also is providing this passionate, fun, grounded experience and vice versa. I would say the main thing is you can both fully be yourselves. You feel safe to fully be yourselves, to have conflict, to bring things forward, to repair. And at the same time, you have a blast. When you're out, you can have fun, you can raise a family together, and there's just this safety in the relationship that maybe you've never experienced.
I definitely have heard people mention the 3 loves, like you only have 3 loves in your life, but they do always make it sound like that's just 3 people. My understanding is twin flame, there's only 1, but that doesn't really seem right. Because a twin flame is the mirror of your soul and you guys share 2 flames of 1 fire or something. It's like kind of that imagery. But does she mention that? Do you have multiple twin flames? Like, is it possible that there are multiple twin flames out there for you or it's just 1?
I can't remember if she talks about this specifically. I think that there are absolutely multiple people that you can have a twin flame relationship with, but I don't think you have multiple twin flame relationships in your lifetime.
Okay. Yeah.
And she makes that
right.
distinction
There's multiple people.
too.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So that was just a side note tangent, but the reason that came up, well, one thing that came up just now while you were talking was I've heard a lot of people say that narcissistic relationships, which are obviously a karmic relationship, you are learning so much from that. And they do serve you. You can take a lot of lessons from them. And oh my God, the growth afterwards, I can absolutely attest to. When you do break the trauma bond and you do get free from a narcissistic relationship or abuse, or even on the lesser side of that, someone with narcissistic traits, like holy cow, the quantum leap, the portals you go through, those karmic relationships, absolutely, they slingshot you into new atmospheres once you break free and you can learn the lessons. And sometimes it takes some support. It's not easy to just do it all on your own because there's a lot of unlearning you have to do that those types of relationships really drive into you. But if you can unlearn those patterns, they can become a strength to achieving your dreams and goals yourself. Now, the other thing, the reason why I wanted to dive deeper into this was because I have heard so many people in the spiritual community be like, I met my twin flame. He was my twin flame. This person was my twin flame, but it didn't work out. And they sound like an abuser. So I think what you said about the twin flame is often mistaken for a karmic relationship comes full circle to what we're talking about in this episode, because they are such impassioned love affairs. They are such exciting, fascinating, engrossing, like all-encompassing feelings of love, but it's actually a trauma bond. And so people mistake their twin flame, but it's actually a karmic relationship. And so people are walking around going, well, he was my twin flame. We had such a connection. It was so amazing, but it didn't work out. And then they talk more about it and you're like, it doesn't sound so healthy. That's why what we're talking about today is really important. How do you tell if it's love or a trauma bond? Because you might be like, wow, this person is my twin flame. They're amazing. They're everything to me. But you're actually trauma bonded. It's actually really unhealthy and you're being abused and you don't know. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if some of the things that make a relationship feel incredibly romantic are actually signs that your nervous system is activated? So what is the definition of a trauma bond?
I'm going to define this for you guys. Before that, I just want to say that in regards to twin flame, there can sometimes be a gap. So you could have met this person and had this connection with them, and for some reason it didn't work. And then it does come back around, but you have to let it go as if it's never going to come back. You can't be like waiting around pining for this person. That's not healthy for anyone. So that is an important distinction, but I don't want anyone out there holding on to someone waiting for them to come back around, because they're not going to come back around until you let them go fully and move on with your life.
If you love them, let them go. If they were yours, if it was meant to be, they will come back. You cannot lose something that is meant for you. If they don't come back, it was never yours. It wasn't meant for you.
100%. Okay, so a trauma bond. A trauma bond isn't simply a relationship with trauma. It's a pattern where pain, unpredictability, rupture, and intermittent closeness become part of what keeps the attachment strong. So this is a typical trauma bonded dynamic. There's connection, there's rupture, basically like a fight of some kind. There's anxiety, there's separation. Maybe there's some stonewalling. Maybe there's a threat of leaving. Then there's the reconciliation, which is putting a Band-Aid over, like, we're saying it's reconciliation, but it's really just a Band-Aid. Nothing's actually being resolved. Then there's this intense relief. Okay, they're back. They didn't leave. It's okay. And then there's this connection again. And it's scary because that period of connection can often be so euphoric and so addictive. And then there's the repeat. And I have heard and probably experienced this, but I feel like those periods of connection get shorter and shorter before there's a repeat.
Absolutely. That's right. So a trauma bond is the bond that a victim forms towards an abuser. It's not Stockholm syndrome, but there are some similarities. It can look like Stockholm syndrome, which is what people form towards like a kidnapper, but that's someone you don't know. And trauma bond is with someone that you do know. But there's more distinctions than that, but we're not going to get into Stockholm syndrome and all that today. A trauma bond is a complex and neurochemical attachment that you form with a person who hurts you. So the abuser's tactics, like Victoria just mentioned, trigger chemicals in your brain like oxytocin and dopamine in such a way that you become addicted to your abuser. And what Victoria just described is the cycle of abuse. You go from these really intense highs to these really low lows. And yes, the love bombing is there in between. They call that the honeymoon stage or the chocolates and strawberries stage because they're always bringing you flowers and things in between. You feel like you are so in love, but it's really just relief because you're not in that pain that they are causing. And you go from feeling, yeah, like you're in hell, you can't do anything right, to, oh, everything is going to be different now. Oh, we're turning the corner. Oh, he says he doesn't want to hurt me anymore. Oh, we're going to move past this. So I'll give an example. A man is screaming at his wife for giving him the wrong directions. And everybody's going to come at me because I'm using a man as an abuser. But okay, we get it. Women can be narcissists too. But there's a lot more male abuse happening towards women. Okay, guys, if you want to come at me, come at me. It's fine. A man is screaming at his wife for giving him the wrong directions on the freeway. Once they get to their destination, he tells her to go pick out an expensive wallet. And he starts telling her that he really wants her to have nice things. And he only gets mad at her because he believes in her. And he expects so much from her because he knows what she's capable of and he wants the best for her. And so she's gone through this experience of being so terrorized and so scared. And the cortisol is pumping through her blood. The stress hormones are pumping through her body and her nervous system is activated. And then all of a sudden he's comforting her and he's telling her it's okay. And he does it because he loves her and he wants to go get her the nice thing. And so she starts to feel the oxytocin and the relief. And this is the example I like to use from my relationship. It was like he was the knife that was stabbing me and cutting me open and the Band-Aid that would patch me back up. Your nervous system gets so activated and so triggered and so anxious, but they're also the person who regulates you afterwards. It's very confusing when you're in it. They are the pain and the relief, and that's what causes the addiction. They've done studies on the brain. Your brain literally changes when you've been with a narcissist over a long period of time, but it can also change back. That's neuroplasticity for you. And it feels like love, but it's a chemical addiction. You can have withdrawal symptoms from this, just the same as heroin. It is a real chemical addiction in your brain. And it creates a very strange cognitive dissonance too, because you feel so torn. The person hurting you is also the person who heals you. It's very confusing when you're in it.
Yes, and the part about it changing your brain is definitely true, and it can be Very similar to your childhood dynamics. This parent that was angry, volatile, chaotic, and then comes in and hugs you. It's okay. I didn't mean to say that. And then you're searching for that in adulthood because your subconscious is like, this is what love is. Someone is mean to me, and then the same person soothes me. And that's also why when you're in a dynamic where someone is just getting you flowers just because, or calmly responds to you freaking out and doesn't need a bad thing to happen to do something nice for you, that can feel boring because your brain has literally been wired to feel like that is not love. This other thing is love that's actually harming you. But like Iman was saying, with neuroplasticity, you can change this. You can rewire your brain and welcome this healthy, secure love. It can take time, but it is possible.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. I was going to ask you, why do you think someone who isn't consistently available sometimes occupies more mental space than someone who is available? And you kind of answered it there. It could stem from childhood, from your early attachment patterns, from what your body has normalized, what it thinks love is. It's crazy the emotions you feel with someone who is inconsistent, right? Because you get this dopamine hit when you do get their attention. It feels like you've won something. It feels like you've earned it. You're being picked. And then there's anxiety when they withdraw, and that triggers you. And again, you've got this rush. It's a roller coaster. It's exciting. And there's the relief when they come back. And you're just constantly analyzing their behavior, overthinking, feeling like you have to earn their love. You've got this fantasy going on in your mind about being chosen. They don't care about anybody, but they chose me. They let me get close to them. It's just incredible highs and incredible lows.
Yes. Going back to your question, I don't know if we talked about this in another podcast or on a live, but if you are listening to this and you're that person that's like, oh, I always call in the emotionally unavailable men or women, and you keep having the same experience dating, guess what? You're also emotionally unavailable. Because if you were completely available to this love that you're telling yourself you're calling in, this grounded person, then you would not be settling and pursuing and pining over the emotionally unavailable person. And the reason you are is because there is a part of you that, yes, is associating this up and down dynamic with love. That's what you know love to be. That's familiar. And there's a part of you, understandably, that is one foot out the door, that is protecting because you've seen people get hurt that are vulnerable. Like when you were little, you have this unconditional love for your parents. Your parents are your God. They're everything. And then this person comes in and harms you. Then in IFS, internal family systems, you have these protector parts. So there's this protector part that's going to come up and be like, nope, we're not going to fully love someone ever again. No. And so then this person who's wishy-washy, emotionally unavailable, whatever, it's like, oh, okay, this is safe. I don't have to fully commit because they're not going to. So that's another piece of it.
Yes, that's so right. It always comes back to us. We have to look within, and we're not victim blaming. Of course, we're not victim blaming. Two things can be true at once. We have responsibility. We have actions we can take. And abusers are liars and manipulators and con men and con women. Okay, fine. Sometimes there's two things are true at once. Yes, take responsibility. Yes, it comes down to you. Yes, maybe you did call that in for some reason. And yes, maybe everything is happening for your highest good. And yes, there's two people in play. And yes, it's not your fault. You shouldn't be abused and you shouldn't be hurt. So both things can be true. This is about taking responsibility so that you can move out of those patterns. You can learn the lessons and move on, and you can recognize what's in your control. And of course, we're not victim blaming it. We see that there's a lot of layers to this.
Absolutely. You don't know what you don't know. If you don't have this information, then how can you know? Of course, you're going to keep being in the same dynamics. You're going to keep showing up the same way because you don't have the information to know that you can change. It doesn't have to be this way. So it makes perfect sense that if you experience this in childhood, you are now repeating this in adulthood. It's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the pattern. It's how we react to our circumstances. And we're ultimately just trying to protect ourselves. Our nervous system's only job is to keep us safe. And the methods may not make sense a lot of the times to our adult mind, but if you really look into it,
Lizard brain.
yeah, if you really sit with it, it's like, oh, that actually does make sense. It's not how I would approach it. It's
Right.
doing the best it can.
Yeah.
So this is the cycle of healthy attachment. You have the connection, the discomfort. There's communication around whatever that discomfort is. You repair it. You both are like, okay, what can we do differently? What are your needs? And then you feel a deeper trust. So that's the big distinction here. It's not this euphoric high and relief and oh my God, it's intimacy. It is true intimacy. It is a deeper trust with this person. And yes, you can feel more sexually attracted. You can want to connect in a physical way after something like this, but it's from this grounded, deeper trust place. It's not like, oh, thank God they didn't leave me or whatever.
Yeah, and there's consistency. Like, you know where you stand with them. You know they care about you. You know that they love you. You know if you have a fight, it's not going to be the end of the relationship. There's space for honesty and truth and feelings and you.
Yes, yes. And I also want to add to that, if you are coming out of a relationship or multiple relationships where you had more of the trauma bond type conflict, where every conflict could be the end of the relationship, then even when you get into a healthy relationship, there's going to be moments where you're thinking that, even though that's clearly not what's happening, your body has associated any type of discomfort involving another person with, oh, they're going to leave me. So just because that comes up in conflict does not mean, oh, this isn't the person I need to run. It could just be there's a part of you that you have to sit with and still needs to trust you and trust that you are going to leave if something is not aligned, not working out. So that's the big thing here is, yes, of course, we want to trust the other person. We want to feel safe with our partners. And we also have to trust ourselves and trust that we are going to put our foot down. We are going to leave this time if things are not safe. Like our body needs to know that, especially if in the past we did not do that. We just were like, okay, it's fine. And then continued on with this dynamic. And then our inner children are like, what the fuck?
Yes, I've heard that fear from so many women who have come out of narcissistic relationships and abusive relationships. And they're like, I don't trust myself and I don't trust other people, but it's more like I don't trust myself to realize that I'm sacrificing my boundaries again, or that I'm doing this again, or that's happening again because they did it one time. But what I've seen is that more often, now you see it and you see it earlier and you notice the patterns. And that makes a big difference. It becomes a superpower. And I ask them, I'm like, well, would you stand for that again? And the answer is always right away, absolutely not. No, of course not. So I think we get in our own way and we block ourselves and we're like, maybe I don't know, because we're afraid because it did happen one time. And yes, some people do repeat these relationships more than once, and it can happen again and again. And maybe it happens to varying degrees and maybe it happens in different ways. So it's hard to tell. But more often I see that we learn the lesson, especially if we've taken the time to reflect, to understand ourselves deeper, to realize what it was that caused us to get in that situation in the first place and to sacrifice those boundaries in the first place. If we can develop that understanding internally, the women that come out of these relationships do not get in them again. They find very healthy, very happy, very fulfilling, empowered, loving relationships afterwards. And they really do shine brightly. That is a common theme after abusive and narcissistic relationships as well.
I think a big piece of what you said that is important in all of this is taking the time in between relationships, because when I was in relationships where I was repeating the same dynamic, it was like 3 back-to-back relationships with no time in between. I just didn't want to be alone. And so, yeah, if you take that time and you connect with yourself and you make a list of this is what I'm never accepting again, this is what I'm calling in, whatever your practice is, and it's going to be tested. It's gonna be tested when you're dating, it's gonna be tested in your
Oh, yeah.
relationship, but you'll be ready. You will be ready. So, it's very, very important.
Yeah. So here's a big question. And I think we're going to get into a lot of ways to tell the difference between trauma bond and love, because some people might be listening and might be going, am I trauma bonded? Is this love? So here's one of the ways you can ask yourself, what does your body feel like when you're around this person? So what is happening in between the romantic moments? If you are in the cycle of abuse, this would be the times when things are bad or when you're really activated and anxious, when they're not texting you, when they're not around you. Are you peaceful? Are you checking your phone constantly, waiting for their text? When they need space, do you continue living your life and doing the things that you like to do? Or does your entire emotional state change and you're obsessed with what they're doing and how they're feeling and if they're mad at you? When you're together, do you feel grounded? Do you feel safe and supported? Or are you just hyper aware of how they feel about you? Again, you're just conscious of their emotional state, their feelings, their judgments on you. Pay attention to your body in all those moments. And that can help you distinguish.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with all of those.
Love says, I deeply want this person and I am still free to be myself. Trauma bond says, I desperately need this person and I need them to act a certain way so that I can feel okay. I need them to be okay so I can be okay. And in love, you miss them. Of course, you miss them. You might feel disappointed. You might feel sad, but you're still grounded in yourself. You can continue your day. You can live your life. You can communicate your needs and tolerate space. But in a trauma bond, their withdrawal feels unbearable. It feels like you're going to die. It feels like you are losing something. You obsess. You check your phone. You analyze every interaction. You replay it in your head a million times. You wonder what you did wrong. Not in just take accountability way, but everything is your fault. And they probably are telling you that too. And you feel this overwhelming need to restore the connection. You cannot be okay if they're not okay, if you guys aren't okay, if they're not making it clear that you're okay. So that might be something to ask yourself. Do I miss this person when they're gone? Or do I just feel like I need their attention to regulate myself because I'm so triggered and anxious when they're not around or when they're upset with me?
Yes, absolutely. So, an important part of all of this is how do we see this before we get into the relationship? What are some signs we can look for in the beginning so that we avoid this altogether? And so I have this little chart here, and this is all nuanced, and I'll explain why I am heavily leaning on the side of this being nuanced, because we all know those stories of people who meet someone after 4 months and they get married and they've been together 32 years, and it may be few and far between, but it does happen. So we do want to be open. And this is why intuition and trusting yourself is so important, because yes, this information I'm about to share in general is probably accurate, but every person is different and there's no wrong way. If it takes you and your partner a little bit longer, or your future partner a little bit longer to get to know each other, there's nothing wrong with that. If you meet each other and you're both like, you are my person, and you do end up in a healthy relationship after that and it's not love bombing, that's great too.
Good for you.
Yes. Yes, good for you. Okay, genuine interest and pursuit. I want to get to know you, versus love bombing. I already know you're the one. So this is like you're just meeting this person and getting to know them. His interest grows as he learns who you actually are. So I'm just going to go through this whole column first. Consistent communication, makes plans and follows through, pursues you while respecting your pace, shows interest in your actual life, values, thoughts, and boundaries, compliments, feels specific and grounded, wants to build something, is interested in compatibility, can tolerate hearing no. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
That can be his or her. Their behavior remains relatively consistent whether you're giving them attention or not, like Iman was saying. Do you feel okay when you're getting attention from them, when you're not getting attention from them? You still feel like you're getting to know each other. So the beginning phase is, it's not this, okay, we're committed after 2 weeks. It's, we're getting to know each other. I don't know yet. He doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't need constant reassurance. They have a life outside of you. They're not dropping everything to be with you. That's not romantic.
Yeah, that's not romantic. It backfires, guys. It backfires. It's not cute.
No. If anyone ever told you, Okay. So something my boyfriend Lou and I have talked about. The reason why someone is interested in you is because of your interests. If you drop all of your interests and become them or become who you think that they want you to be, then what is the point of that? They fell in love with you because of who you were before you met them. In a healthy relationship, in an unhealthy relationship, they try to change you.
Yeah.
And the last one, the relationship develops through reality. So the opposite of that, those are the healthy ones. And then we go into the love bombing. Okay, so like I said earlier, love bombing. I already know you're the one right away. I already know you're the one. The feelings seem enormous before they even really know you. Often excessive or overwhelming communication makes grand plans and promises that may not materialize, can become pushy when you don't match their intensity, focuses heavily on how amazing or special you are to him or to her. Excessive idealization. You're perfect. I've never met anyone like you. No one's perfect, honey. No one's perfect. When someone starts saying that, it's like, just wait. Wants to establish something very quickly. Almost feels like they want to get you hooked in before you find out who they really are.
Yeah, that is so accurate. And you said it, just wait, honey. Yeah, just wait, because this sounds great. Initially, you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. No, just wait, because it doesn't stay like that.
Right. And I don't know if you've experienced this too, Iman, but men are delusional. They don't understand women are humans. They meet someone and they're like, oh my God, you're perfect. And then when you are an actual human with flaws, they're like, wait, you're not who I thought you were.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not perfect either. I see your flaws and I'm just like, oh, you're a human. But with me, I have to maintain this Mother Mary. I was never that, but some archetype, some perfect archetype.
The virgin sex nymph.
Right, exactly. The mother and the whore.
Mother and healer and all the perfect things.
Their therapist.
Mm-hmm. And maid.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And then assumes compatibility based on chemistry. This is another reason why it's important to wait to have sex, ladies and men. Wait to have sex because sex blinds you.
It blinds you. You don't see the red flags. You're like, oh, but the sex is so good. Yeah. And just an FYI, this is a documented fact. It's well proven that abusers are pretty good in bed. That is something very common that you will hear women who have come out of abusive relationships say, oh, but the sex was great. And it's surprising because you might be like, oh, well, it must be bad or it would be abusive or it's rape. And sometimes, that is true. But there's a lot of times, more often, that people are like, well, we never had problems in bed. So don't let that be an indicator of compatibility. And just know that, yeah, you have rose-colored glasses on as soon as you start getting intimate like that.
Exactly. It's so true. This is a big one. Your boundaries, basically what we just said, your boundaries may cause withdrawal, guilt, pressure, or emotional reaction. So you setting a simple boundary, for example, I'm actually going to stay home tonight. I'm not feeling well. I got to do some work thing, whatever it is. And they're like, are you seeing someone else? They get all weird about it. And sometimes that is the case, but then it's like, why do you want to keep talking to that person anyway? So whatever the reason is, just accept it and be like, okay.
Absolutely. This is one of the clearest real world tests is setting a boundary, saying no, ask for something that you need, take some space, express a disagreement. Because in healthy love, they might be disappointed, but they will respect your autonomy and your decision and the fact that you're human and what you say, your space. But in a trauma bond, your boundary to them, in their mind, threatens the connection. And you'll experience guilt and punishment and withdrawal and manipulation and rage, or they'll be cold to you. And then love bombing later, or pressure. There'll be this pressure. Well, man, like a real couple shouldn't have boundaries between them. That's crazy. I experienced that firsthand. Boundaries aren't a real thing. That's a made up thing. No, boundaries are healthy. And if someone is trying to convince you through any means that boundaries are not healthy, that is a red flag. That is a sign of a trauma bond. Also, how do you feel setting the boundary? Because in healthy love, you can say, I love you, but I'm not going tonight. Or I love you, but I need some space. I can say no. I can say I love you and no. But in a trauma bond, you don't feel like you can say no. You don't feel like you can set a boundary. And maybe you have some problem setting boundaries that you're working on But then you should be able to share with them that you are working on setting boundaries, and they should be supportive of that. If you can't say no, if you can't set a boundary, it means that they have created a space where they might be going like, I never said you couldn't hang out with your friends. I never said you couldn't go on that trip. They'll tell you, I never said you couldn't do that. I never said this. But they created the atmosphere where it was impossible for you to do that because you knew if you asked, you would get the cold shoulder, you would get ignored, you would get the withdrawal, you would get the huffing around the house or the lack of interest or the anger simmering below the surface and the resentment. And you're avoiding that. You don't want that conflict. So you just don't bother setting the boundary. But then they tell you, well, you never told me. That is a huge problem. There's also something I have very personal experience dealing with. So pay attention. Can you even set a boundary? And what happens when you do? Those are big.
This just came up when you were talking. When Lou and I first started dating, I guess in his past relationships, and I don't know if this was actually how his past girlfriends were feeling, or maybe they didn't say it explicitly, but they created an environment where he felt this way, like you said. But he would feel like he couldn't just go hang out with his friends. And I was like, just tell me. Like, if I'm at home making dinner, then just text me and say, I'm going to stop and see Sean or whatever. I have no problem with that. And for a while, he wouldn't even ask. He just wouldn't do it because he just assumed I would be mad about it. And I was like, no, I want you to see your friends. I was like, I don't care. So it was kind of this learning where he'll text me, I'm going to stop at this person's house. And like, I just keep it very simple. I'm like, enjoy, have fun. I'll see you when you're home. And if we had a plan or something was going on, of course, I'm going to be like, thought we were doing this thing. That's different. Because he is much more spontaneous than me. I am kind of like, okay, we have this plan. Let's do this. You told me we were doing this. And he needs a lot more freedom to be like, oh, well, I actually just thought of this thing I want to go do on my way home or whatever. And so that has been really good for me to not be so rigid and not get attached to an idea of we have to do this thing or an expectation or an outcome. We can communicate and we can change and it's okay, and just being safe with that. So there can be carryover from other relationships, other situations, and a hallmark of a healthy relationship is you can talk about it and you can figure it out together and reassure not only yourself, but each other. Like being true partners versus against each other, which is how I felt in almost every relationship except this one. Okay, so, right, we did the boundaries one. This is very similar, but attention can become contingent on your responses. So the withdrawing of attention if you do something or you don't respond in the way that they like, in the same exact way they respond, there's this stonewalling, there's this manipulation, this pulling away, or aggression. You can feel like you're already in a relationship before you've actually built one. That one's interesting. And that's another one I think it's really about what you're okay with, your safety levels, because who can say what the exact amount of time is to wait before you enter a relationship? I think that that's very specific to each couple. But if this person's showing up at your house and acting like you're together and like showing up places that you are or whatever it is, and you're like, we didn't even say we're exclusively dating, that's obviously a red flag.
Yeah, and I think also planning your future and you haven't even had an exclusivity talk. You haven't even talked about, oh, are we together? Are we a thing? But then meanwhile, you're planning a future and starting a business together. Myself, red flag. That's love bombing. That's trauma bonding.
Yes, absolutely. And it's hard because it can feel exciting. Oh, wow, this person is very into me. Okay, 3 more here. You become preoccupied with securing the connection. You or the other person becomes preoccupied instead of allowing it to naturally develop. You rapidly become the center of their emotional world, or you make them the center of your emotional world. Like Iman was saying, you can't be okay unless they're okay, vice versa. The relationship develops heavily through fantasy. So there's this focus on, like we were saying earlier, they're perfect. Nothing can ever go wrong. This is exactly what I've always wanted. There's this unrealistic delusion. It's delusional. You're not factoring in reality, humanness, complexities of relationships. It's just like you're in love with the fantasy of who this person is, vice versa.
The potential There's a big thing there around potential, right? You're falling in love with the potential of what the relationship could look like, or the dream they're painting for you of this wonderful future where they give you everything you want, but it's not the reality of what's actually happening. Their words don't match their actions. So early on in my relationship, I mean, it was already after a year, and we had moved away from my entire community and support network, and we were living in Wisconsin. But I had a conversation with this healer woman who was wonderful. And she said a lot of things to me, but one of the things was that I needed to wake up from the fantasy, that I was living in a fantasy. And I was like, how do I wake up then? And she's like, you can just ask. Ask God, ask Spirit, please open my eyes. Please let me see the truth. And I did. And it answered. It did show me the truth. And then I chose to ignore it. So we do see these things. And I think there was a part of me that was like, I just want to keep living in the fantasy. It's such a nice fantasy. I think I'd like to just keep living in the fantasy. So yeah, it can be tough to get to that place where you are actually willing to accept the help and the truth when you see it. But you can. And I would say do it sooner rather than later because it just keeps getting worse, but it keeps getting harder.
I have a story about this too. Asking to have your eyes opened. And Iman, you know this story. But in my last relationship, I had a similar moment. Basically, my question to God was, if this is not the right relationship for me, show me something that I cannot get past in the next week. And in that week, something came up. I won't say exactly what it is. It was not at all what I expected God to show me. It was completely out of left field. And it wasn't so much the thing. It was the way he handled this thing that revealed itself over the next few months. But it still took me, this happened, let's say, in August of several years ago. And it took me until April the following year to be like, I'm done. But it was that. It was a lot of things, but that I just could not get over. I just could not let it go. But we have to have compassion for ourselves. We have to be patient with ourselves because it can absolutely take time. And it's very easy to convince ourselves that things are okay. Because in the same way that we are strong and we can handle anything and we are badass women, we can also use that to be like, oh, I can handle this relationship. I can handle this person. I can make it work. It's going to be fine. I'm not delusional. I know that no relationship is perfect. We convince ourselves, we use that same superpower that we use to pursue our dreams and to be relentless and whatever. We can use that in relationships too. And it's not what it's for.
No, it's true. There are so many healthy traits that would be so successful in a normal relationship, in a healthy relationship, that when you're with a narcissist or an abuser, they take it to their advantage and they twist it and manipulate it and they keep you stuck for longer. Because yeah, you're like, every relationship has problems. We can work this out. I'm loyal. I'm dedicated. I'm resilient. I don't have to let their mean, negging comments get to me. They never had a healthy version of love when they were a child, and I can look past that because they were abused themselves. And so they don't mean it when they say that to me. And I have enough confidence that I don't need to let their silly comments bother me. I'm just going to let it brush off my shoulders, or little examples like that where you convince yourself that it's okay and you can handle it and you can do anything. Or you bounce back really quickly after a fight and you're like, wow, look at me. I'm so resilient. I remember having that thought so many times after horrible abuse, like walking down the street going, wow, and today I'm happy. The human spirit sure is amazing. I'm so resilient. What a beautiful testament. I can still be grateful today, even after everything that was happening yesterday. Like, isn't the human spirit just amazing? These things can keep you trapped. And so that's why, as Victoria was mentioning earlier, the signs of being aware of a trauma bond early, and just the more educated you can be on what these things look like and what the truth is, the better equipped you are to then remove yourself from those situations. Even if it takes some time, even if it takes some effort, even if it takes a few tries, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And to add on to that, remembering how you feel in the conflict and after that high, that euphoric, that I'm so resilient wears off, really sitting with that, because I can think of several relationships or even situationships. We didn't call it that back then, but I'll use the new terms.
Somebody was talking to me yesterday and they were like, when you post on Facebook statuses and you're like, oh, in a situationship. And I was like, nobody used that word 10 years ago when we were doing the Facebook status things. It didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. They were like, what? What are you talking about?
We would put it's complicated. That was like if someone was going through a divorce, they would put that.
Right.
There's several moments coming to mind in either past relationship or past flings, situationships, where it was so exciting to be like, we're going to see what happens. I'm going to fly out there, or I'm going to go out tonight, or I'm going to see him. It's an adrenaline rush. It's exciting. I know I was saying earlier that Lou is more spontaneous, but I definitely have an adventurous adrenaline junkie side as well. Even though, what was that thing we did together in Jackson Hole? The gliding?
We jumped off a cliff with some random guys that we met. Parasailing, paragliding.
Yes. Iman was so grounded and calm and ready. And I said to the person, I was like, I don't want to die. I have more life to live. So I'll do the crazy thing, but I have to be weird and annoying and like threaten someone first. But anyway, I digress. So we're totally acknowledging that it can feel really exciting and the adrenaline and the and all that's part of it. Unfortunately, that's why these bonds exist. That's why we keep going back.
Yeah.
And that's also why it's so important to sit with, is it worth it? The way I feel after, the laying in bed, the depression, the anxiety, the are they going to call, the tears, the am I safe? Like, is it worth this little adrenaline rush? No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And again, we're not victim blaming at all. It's just knowledge is power, and sitting with that, being honest with yourself, getting out of the fantasy, asking God to open your eyes, asking God to show you something that you will not be able to get past, whatever your prayer is, however you want to word it, you will be shown. I promise. Yeah. Ask and you will receive.
It's so true. And something too to notice with that excitement, the adrenaline rush, I would say notice if you're choosing them or if you're trying to get them to choose you. So in a healthy relationship or potential relationship, you might be asking, is this person right for me? Do our values align? Do we want the same things in life? Are we going the same direction? And you can think about that. And yes, if you've been having sex, you obviously have it already tinted and you're looking at rose-colored glasses. But, you're looking semi-objectively at the future and at the plans and the direction you're heading. Are they being consistent? Do they meet my needs? Are we a good match? But in a trauma bond, you're consistently trying to convince that person that you are worthy of being chosen, that they should pick you. One is discernment, and the other is trying to earn love. And if you learned early as a child that love had to be earned, then it can be really easy to confuse the two. And it can be really easy to get stuck in that pattern.
Absolutely. And yeah, since I took my year of celibacy and healed a lot of my needing male validation that I had in my past, that was a huge green flag for me for my current relationship, even though there were some love bombing characteristics in the beginning when we were getting to know each other. I was like, you don't even know me and you're acting like you're in love with me. So there was some of that, and I definitely Googled it, and I definitely talked to a healer about it and several friends, and they were like, Victoria, you don't know yet. You don't have to know right now. Just get to know him and more will be revealed. And we've been together 2 years. But something that was a really big green flag was that I never once questioned how he felt about me. I never once felt like I had to make him like me. I never once was wondering at all, ever, since the day we matched on Facebook dating. There was never a moment where I was like, does he like me? Is he going to call? Am I wasting my time? It was always very clear. I like you. Let's hang out. I'm coming down to see you. These are the plans. This is what we're doing. And of course, like as you get to know each other, there's going to be some anxiety. There's going to be some discomfort. There's going to be disagreements. But overall, we keep choosing each other and we love to debate. We're like, do we debate too much? Do all of our conversations have to be debates? And just like trying to have more sweet, kind, loving exchanges because we both can get very heated about whatever the topic is. But even in those moments, we talk about it. We're going to do things differently. We repair and ultimately feel closer. So, yeah, there can be, and I looked this up for this episode, can it feel like love bombing, but it's actually not. And yes, the answer is yes. And it really is something that you figure out over time. And the consistency is key. Like we've said all along in this episode, the consistency, the grounding, and what Iman said, you are not wondering if they're going to choose you, wondering if they like you. It's like, do I like them? Do I choose them? How do I feel around them? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself.
Are you able to be yourself, right? Healthy love makes you more you. It lets you be big and shine because you have this safety with this person. Trauma bond makes you smaller. You lose yourself. You give away pieces of yourself. You can't be yourself. And healthy love, it can include chemistry, passion, sex, intense sex, mystery, excitement, vulnerability, conflict, passion, debates. But underneath it, there's consistency, respect, safety, reciprocity, freedom to be yourself. Healthy love doesn't require you to abandon you. You don't need to stop trusting love. You need to learn to trust yourself enough to recognize what love feels like and that you don't have to abandon yourself to experience that.
Yeah, and something that you were saying about being big, being yourself, feeling truly lit up with what you're pursuing and supported by them in what you are pursuing and vice versa. That is huge. If you are with someone, this is a good test, guys, in the beginning. If you're sharing your dreams, sharing your interests, and they poo-poo on it at all, and I'm not talking about asking questions. If they're just like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know what breath work is. Can you tell me more about it? Obviously, that's not poo-pooing. That's just curiosity. Curiosity, we love that. We love curiosity. We love interest. We love questions. When you're getting to know someone, I've heard so many people talking about being on the dating apps, and it's like pulling teeth, trying to talk
To get them to ask
another
a question.
person. Right. Yes. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be like your big dream that you haven't told anyone, but share your interests, share what excites you, share what plans you have coming up, the projects you're working on. And if there is any, like, you really think that's possible, or have you ever done something like that before? Questions where there's this negative connotation of, I don't think you can do that, or I wouldn't like my wife to be doing that, or whatever, versus, oh, have you done something like that before? That's really interesting. Like, you can feel it.
Catch it early and do not ignore it.
Do not. There is no excuse.
Don't excuse it away. You might feel like you can excuse it away. Don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even little things, because if you find yourself like, they made that little comment, but they also do these things. I remember feeling that way, like, is he a misogynist? Is he a red pill guy? In general, he seemed to be really liberal and like women's empowerment and blah, blah in the beginning. And of course, you've got to be so careful in the beginning because by the time you get more and more invested, they get worse and worse and worse. And then it's harder and harder to leave. But he would say little comments and I would be like, he said that. Is that a red flag? But oh, he let me go to Victoria's friend's wedding with her, so he must be fine. Or, oh, but he lets me do this thing, and so that must be okay. If you find yourself having to make excuses or having to find reasons why it's okay that they said certain things, I think that's a red flag.
Yes. I do think, like Iman was saying, there's little moments. There's little intuitive moments that we really have to pay attention to and not dismiss. And it's okay to have some different views, as long as their views are not being projected onto you, as long as they're not expecting you to feel exactly the same, they're not letting those views influence what you're doing with your life, or being controlling in any way, even if, like Iman was saying earlier, even if they're not outright being like, you can't go out, if it's an environment where you don't even feel safe to ask or to share something that you're going to do.
They're moody when you do go out and then you come back and they're moody. And so then it trains you to not go out or not to ask to go out because you don't want to upset the balance of things.
Yeah.
That's all abuse.
Yep. This was something that I heard in a podcast and I had to really check myself because I was like, oh, I can be controlling. But Lou and I used to be long distance. And I would tell myself that he needs to tell me when he's going out with his friends. No wonder he was scared to go out with his friends. But like, he needs to tell me, or he needs to tell me when he's coming home. I want to know when he's coming home, even though we shared locations. We've always shared locations, like right from the beginning. We've always done that. And I'm the only one that checks it, by the way. I'm the one obsessively checking it. Sorry, Lou. I know you hate that. I do that, but whatever. I feel like that's probably the case with most, or for people I've talked to that share their location with their partner. The woman is like, oh, here he is now. And the guy's like, I literally forget that we're sharing it. But anyway, so I heard this guy on this podcast be like, why do you need to know that? Why do you need to know where your partner is? Why do you need to tell them to check in? You tell yourself, well, I want to make sure they're okay, or I want to make sure that blah, blah, blah. But it's like deep down, that's not what it is. It is kind of a controlling thing. And that's what I realized. And so I just kind of stopped doing that. But it never felt right for me to ask him to tell me that. But I just thought that's what I was supposed to do. Like, he should do that. But then when I really sat with it, I'm like, I actually fully trust him and he's an adult. I don't need to know that. Why am I asking that? So that is another layer, guys. We just get in these patterns, or we're told that someone is supposed to act a certain way, or we're told that whatever. And you get to sit with yourself and be like, do I need to know that? Does that really matter? Is this actually a sign? Is this something I actually need? Or is this just me acting like I don't trust my partner or whatever it is? So that's just another little side tangent.
Last few little things maybe that we didn't mention about, okay, healthy love, their words generally match their actions. I think we might have said that. Affection is consistent. You know where you stand. Conflict is not a threat to the relationship. You don't have to earn their love. They just love you. They like you too. And you can be you. You can be yourself. And you can have differing opinions. You can set boundaries. A trauma bond, incredible highs, painful lows, hot and cold behavior, promises followed by disappointment consistently, affection only after you've been hurt, and you just keep waiting for the good version of them to come back. You're like, where's that person that I fell in love with? Where's that person that was here a few days ago that things were so wonderful with? Why is it so magical sometimes and so awful other times? You find yourself living in this fantasy. So ask yourself, am I in love with this person, or am I addicted to the potential of this relationship and the fantasy?
I just thought of two questions that are really, really important to ask yourself. And this is for people who are already in a relationship. If they never changed, would you stay with them?
Yeah, that's a good one. Because they're not going to change. Some people do change. Change does happen. But in general, can you get through this? And this isn't a thick or thin thing, guys. This isn't a, I need to be with them because I made a commitment. Abuse is a no-go in all the religions. And mental, emotional, psychological, physical, obviously, but even that can be hard to tell. This is not a test you need to pass. This is not proving that you love them and you're loyal. Your life matters and you don't deserve that, and you can have healthy love. So do you really want to spend the rest of your life like that? And yeah, if they never change. And don't think, oh, when we have kids, they'll change. And I know some people have kids and that complicates things with these people, but they don't change after they have kids. They get worse. It doesn't change things for the better. A lot of women experience abuse from their partner during postpartum and during pregnancy. As soon as you get pregnant, because they have you so hooked now. It is so hard for you to leave at that point. So if you think things are going to turn around when you have kids, I can tell you absolutely it will not. And that's something that got me to finally leave. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If people don't have kids yet, if you have kids, it is more complicated. I get it. But if you don't, if you're not there yet, please don't hang on to some hope that they're magically going to change once you have children, okay?
It's so true. And you're so vulnerable. You're so vulnerable in that time. And you really want to feel safe when you are that vulnerable like that. We don't have children, but especially your first child, you could just imagine it is an extreme transformation, total change. You don't know what to expect. Birth can be traumatic. And you want to feel safe. You want to know your partner has got you and is going to be there for you wholeheartedly. So if you are arguing about dumb shit all the time, if your baseline is roller coaster emotions versus your baseline being safety and security, and you haven't even gotten married or had kids yet, like, what do you think is going to happen when you have real intense challenges to work through if they can't even handle you not doing the dishes, quote unquote, on time without freaking out? And then the other question, and this really got me in my last relationship, if your son turned out exactly like them Would you be okay with that? Or daughter.
Wow. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Would you want your daughter in a relationship that's like that? Would you want your daughter to be living through the same relationship you're in?
big one.
Yeah. So hopefully we gave enough ways to tell the difference, to distinguish. If anybody has any others, or if you're wondering if you're in a trauma bond, please reach out to us on Instagram. We both work with individual clients. We're happy to help. This is something that I know I in particular have a lot of experience with, but Victoria as well has plenty of tools. So reach out to either one of us, reach out to both of us, book a call, let's chat, and we can help you figure it out and figure out the way forward. And I can tell you, it is better on the other side. Okay. And if it's love, we're not going to lie to you either. We're not going to be like, you're in a bad relationship when you really are just dealing with other blocks in your life. So if you're confused and you want some extra help, please reach out to us.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week.
See you next week. Intensity is not proof of love. Pay attention to the pattern. Do you feel safe? Can you communicate and repair? Are you choosing this person, or always trying to prove that you're enough, hoping that they'll choose you? And if they never changed, is this really what you want the rest of your love life to look like? If you're realizing that you've spent more time trying to survive a relationship instead of thriving in one, there is another way. I'm accepting one-on-one clients, and I specialize in helping women build their dream businesses and lives after escaping narcissistic abuse. But even if you're still in a trauma bond, or if you've just escaped and are seeking guidance, apply for a free clarity call with me using the link in the show notes. Let's talk about what comes next for you. We'll see you next week.